All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a rainy Saturday morning in Nashville. It's still a beautiful day. It's just going to be raining most of it. My guest today is Sharon Hurt, council member at large, extraordinary person in the community. She does all kinds of stuff. CEO at Jump and Streetworks. She's got all kinds of stuff going on. Sharon, welcome. How you doing this morning?
Good morning. Thank you, Jim, for having me. I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing just fine. So,
and good morning to everyone else who's watching. Thank you all for joining.
They'll be jumping on.
Well, I like that. Jump on, jump, jump. Yes.
Jump. You just keep saying it, and more things keep happening over there. So I believe that you may be sitting at your sister's house. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm in Memphis.
In Memphis, and there's a big clock behind you that says it's 5 till 12. Mm-hmm. So I thought Memphis was on the same time zone as we were.
It is, but my sister, she operates by the beat of her own time and does whatever she wants to do. She's my older sister, and she's the oldest living sibling that I have. So whatever it is that she does, I'm okay with it.
All right. So that's an interest. So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, I actually was the youngest of 7, or I am the youngest, because I had 2 brothers and a sister to pass. Okay. So I'm still the youngest, of course, but did have 7. It was 3 girls and 3 boys.
So, I'm the 5th of 7.
Oh.
There's 7 of us. My parents have both passed, but all 7 siblings are still here.
Both of my parents have passed as well.
So tell me, now we're going to get into just family stuff for a second. So your oldest sister, who did you, was there a particular member of your family that kind of helped guide you, particularly as you were the youngest in the family?
Well, being the youngest in the family, everybody thought that they could guide me and tell me what to do. But in terms of me being who I am, I guess the most impactful was, as with most people, is their mother. My mother was an amazing woman. She graduated from and got her high school diploma when I was 3 years old. So that means that she had already, and my oldest brother was 15 years older than I am. So she basically had raised a child to adulthood. But she got her high school diploma. She ended up becoming a real estate developer. She sold insurance. She created a satellite post office in the business that she had. There was a construction team that was in that office with her, a seamstress, and she was a notary public. She just had several jobs and did amazing things and was one of the wisest and smartest people that I ever knew.
That's amazing. So we are talking to Sharon Hurt, council member at large, also CEO of Jump and Streetworks, and there's a whole host of other titles you have right now that we'll get into. So welcome, everybody. Sharon and I were just talking about families. We just found out that we both came from families of 7 kids, and Sharon was talking about how strong her mother was and all the different things that she did. Really amazing.
And let me just tell you, she golfed, she bowled, she played bridge. She did all of these things on a regular. In fact, I saw her when she was 50 years old ride a horse without a saddle. I mean, she was some kind of wonderful individual. She was just amazing. So, and took care of the community. She always, always gave and did for people, and just an amazing woman.
So one of the questions, Sharon, that we got over the week was, how do you have energy to do everything you do? So I think you just answered it.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you just that question.
It is. It's just probably if ADD and all of that was utilized when I was younger, I probably have ADD, ADHD, and HIJKLMLP. It's just that I'm always busy trying to do something and making a difference, and changing things. So it's just energy. I guess I love to move.
All right, so let's go back for a second, and I will tell you that County Clerk Brenda Wynn is on our call today. So
hey,
welcome,
Brenda.
And I'm sure we'll have some other people jump on. Today, it's like I said, as we started, it's a rainy day in Nashville. The numbers over the week in terms of COVID, as Councilmember Hurt knows, have not been good. Our beds are, if they're not full, they're almost full. Those numbers have spiked up. We've got kids that are getting sick. Lots of stuff happening out there, including discussions at the council meeting this past Tuesday. There will be more discussions about kind of where we're headed, probably, well, today, tomorrow, we keep talking about it. Lots of discussions, lots of interesting questions kind of flying out of all this stuff. Even from the standpoint, and we may get into it, council member, what can the council do? What can the state do? And what can the federal government do? Because that's all happened this week. So anyway, lots of stuff to talk about. So first question that we always have for our guest is, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, so we've been talking about your family. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? And how did you get to Nashville and become a council member at large?
So I'm from Memphis, and I came to Nashville to attend Tennessee State University. And I absolutely loved Nashville. I thought it was so clean and progressive when I came. And it was just really, really an interesting place to be, because I saw progressive, successful Black people sitting next to me, standing before me, at hand with me. And it was something different for me seeing that in Memphis. And I realized that it was the educational compartment, I guess, that we had right here on Jefferson Street with Tennessee State, Fisk University, Meharry Medical College. Because as a student at Tennessee State, I worked for the student organizations at Meharry. So not only was I around the doctors like Dr. D.B. Todd or Dr. David Satcher, I can just go on and on and on for the many, many brilliant minds, but I saw those emerging students, those bright minds who were up and coming, and saw them become wonderful. As a matter of fact, Quinta Martin is the person. She was working with the Student National Medical Association. I think she was the vice president. And Craig Kendricks, I think, may have been the president at the time. And they hired me because they hosted a conference for the Student National Medical Association here in Nashville. And I loved it. And I would type up a lot of the old rocks, is what they called them. They were tests. And then you would see that those questions were asked in other tests. And I was able to answer some of those questions because of having typed up notes and having typed up previous ones. And I was just enamored by the field, because then I had no idea that someone like me could become a doctor or could be friends and around those who were. And I stayed there, and then the Pre-Alumni Association also hired me as their secretary, and I was able to travel with them. And I think it was probably once after I graduated, um, I tried to get a job in Memphis at one of the prestigious buildings here, a company, and all of the requirements that they had indicated, I qualified for. And they said, well, you must have a college degree. And I said, I have one. And of course, we knew that they did not hire me because they didn't realize that I was a Black woman. But they could not believe my test, because I actually did a typing test, and I typed 120 minutes and I had 6 errors. And they said this couldn't be right, so they needed me to take it over. And they don't know that the second time around, you know, is always better than the first. And I came back and I typed 126 words with 4 errors. And it was just that. But, you know, things happened divinely. I did not get that job, and all of the contacts of me having that came to Nashville and went to graduate school. I think it helped that my then boyfriend was in Nashville at the time and stayed here. Did not get that MBA that I started out to get, but I did get the MRS.
You got an
And so
MRS
I
degree.
worked at Meharry. After that, I started working at Meharry. I stayed there for 17 years. Upon leaving, I was the director of admissions and records. And that's another story that we could talk about, which was a great learning experience for me because I was so in love. I thought I was going to be Miss Meharry 2095. I was just so in love with Meharry and what it brought. And things did not work out the way that I thought that it was. And I realized, it was years later that I realized that I can only serve one master. And that's what changed my life. And all of that, had an opportunity to work with Salita Holloway, who had her own business, and I helped her in that business, and just stayed, you know, very busy trying to do something until I found a job. Got the job at the Jefferson Street United Merchants Partnership, went in there with a $50,000 budget and 11 members. And I can tell you that I'm so proud to say that at once upon a time, we're not there now, but I grew that organization to where we had over $800,000 budget, grew it to over 200 membership, which we do still have, created several different programs there, transportation, affordable housing, had a summer program for children, the annual Jefferson Street Jazz and Blues Festival, just a number of things that came out of me working and doing things. I had a workforce development program that, you know, provided jobs for individuals who were working, wanted to work with the Music City Center, the construction part of it. And once the construction was done, we also created a workforce development program that focused on banquet serving. And we've got people who are still at MCC who came through that job. And we also have had a driver's license restoration program because we found that many people who were unemployed or underemployed was because they did not have a driver's license. So we wanted to address those barriers to fix that. And naturally, having been in the community and worked for pretty much 40 years in the community, it was a natural foray for me to take my chances at becoming a member of the council. And that I actually was inspired from going to the Delta Days on Capitol Hill, one of my sorors, Loretta Lynch, was being confirmed, and to see those women there and high powered in their beautiful red was inspiration. And Frankie Muse Freeman, who was an attorney out of St. Louis, walked to our podium at 98 and said, "Sorors, we got work to do." And I was so inspired then and now that I felt like she said, "You got a lot on your plate, but you can add one more thing." And that's exactly what I did.
So let
So
me
that's
ask
how
you,
I got to the council.
all right, so let me ask you this, and then we'll talk about your role on the council. Are you glad that you ran for the council?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I am. It's been tumultuous. I mean, it has been tumultuous considering when we first became council member at large, you and I and others, you know, we had the tragedy with council member Green, and then I was assigned district, you know, council member over District 1, and then some of the other things that fell out with the then mayor, and then we had the tornado and the pandemic, and it has just been tumultuous. But you know, out of all of those things, I find the silver lining. I always look for the lesson to be learned and what can be done, and it just has been amazing. And that's where my faith grows. It continues to increase when I have those type of experiences and challenges. It just encourages me to stay the course and do what it is, because I know that something good has to come from it.
So you are one of the stronger voices on the council. You have been ever since you got on, and you continue to be. So tell me, from your perspective, what do you think are the most important issues that Nashville is facing today? I mean, we've certainly been through quite a bit over the last year and a half, you know, with the tornado, with the pandemic, with the bombing, with other storms, with lots of other issues going on. So we've been through this together. It's been a difficult time for the city, for the country as a whole. What do you think now are the biggest issues that the city is facing?
Well, of course, you know, we cannot talk about Nashville and not speak about housing. You know, I'm sure that, well, not housing, because there's the census just told us that there's been an increase in housing, but the affordable housing, not housing for everyone. And of course, we know that transportation is also a problem that that we have with. So I know that there are some things that are being addressed with that, but I really believe that Nashville needs to have balance. I don't think that we have to do things for one population of people and we totally ignore the other population. You know, I tend to do a lot of things. I speak in about with sports, because my next to me was my brother, and I had another brother for him next to him, and I participated in sports. I played softball. I was a shortstop, and I was some kind of bad. You better believe it, Vice Mayor. I was good. But that shows you how you have to navigate and the things that you do. As I told you, my mother golfed and she bowled. My father was a golfer, and in all of those sports. But I personally love football and I love basketball. And I have often said that I believe that Nashville is like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, you know that he could always count on that 50, 65, 70 points a game. I mean, much like Wilt Chamberlain, who hit 100 points in a game with the Lakers, but they lost the game. Michael Jordan was successful in winning games, but they never won the championship. The only way that they began to win those championships is when he got other people in the game. Scottie Pippen, and I like to say, you know, Michael Jordan is downtown Nashville. North Nashville is Scottie Pippen. East Nashville, I said that East Nashville is Dennis Rodman. Then you've got maybe your Steve Kerr is your West Nashville. And you bring all of them into play with that game. Then you got your championship team. And not only that, but they won it year after year after year. They had repeats, three-peats, and all of that. And I think Nashville has that same opportunity to do that, but you've got to get all the players in the game and make sure that they're able to do it. If North Nashville is not doing well, then all of Nashville cannot do as well as it should. And Nashville should be the place that it was meant to be. And it's going to take all of us coming together in order to do that. So I believe that there has to be more diversity. I mean, and equity and all of the things that we do. You know, we have to listen to our people, listen to those who are telling us, you know, if your brakes are squeaking in your car, then you know that you've got to go and find out what's going on. And when you get there, it may be that you need some a new master cylinder, or you need cylinder, or you need some oil into your brakes, or you might need brake pads, or you might need rotors, and then you might need some drums. So you cannot overlook all of those things, you know, and just put brake pads on it, because if the rotors are bad, then the brake pads are going to go out quickly. So we cannot window dress it. We cannot fix the surface. We have to get to the root of the problem and fix it all the way through. And that's what I think happens, is that we fix what it is that we see, but it's something else going on, and we've got to address it.
Okay, so love the analogies, and I'm getting lots of comments in the chat about the analogies, like the basketball. And I didn't know that you played shortstop. So
oh yes, yes. Nothing came past me.
I figured. Okay, so
and look, I hit 2 home runs and a triple in one game.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh yes. Bert Campaneris was my favorite shortstop during that time with the Oakland A's.
Oakland A's, that's right. I remember
yes.
that. Yes.
But I can talk about Lou Brock and some of the others too, but come on.
I got it. I got a Lou Brock autograph. So there you go. Well,
couldn't steal bases like him, but
yeah. Well, he was exceptional at stealing bases.
Yes.
I grew up with the Cincinnati Reds and Joe Morgan. And
I like the Reds. I like the Reds. You know,
yeah,
Johnny Bench.
What a team.
Ken Griffey.
Tell me about the balance thing. We'll go back to that, and then the analogies were great. I really like that. So the question is, how do we get the balance? If you've got, you know, you acquire. I mean, so I've been watching The Last Dance. I was behind on that, but I was watching how they go back, and they were really good at putting the right pieces together. On, you know, there would always be some stress on the team, but they were trying to figure out how to get that balance in. And they did it.
Absolutely.
They did it, and they built it around Michael Jordan. But I think you're right. He could only do so much once they brought in Pippen and Horace Grant and Steve Kerr and those guys, and Dennis Rodman.
Right.
Then they built the team. And
not only that, but everybody understood their role. Dennis Rodman knew that it was not his purpose to shoot. His purpose was to get the rebounds and give it off to those who could make the basket. That was his point. That was his purpose. So we have to understand what our role is in order to do it, because we're running a race here. And we all have a role and a purpose, but and when it's time for the baton to be passed off to you, you get the baton, do your part, and make sure and you pass that off. So you understand your role. That's another analogy that I have. But I believe that some of the ways that you do this, I believe in transit-oriented development. But you got to be intentional from the very beginning to make sure that you're really trying to build up these communities for all people, and not just build it up for the people that we expect that are coming or what we want it to look like, but those that are there. I mean, when I look at it in the whole urban core and where things are for Nashville, and of course, I can speak very strongly about North Nashville, but a lot of people don't realize that I actually live in Bellevue, and I also lived in Madison. And I lived in Madison because I did student teaching at Madison High School when I was a senior at Tennessee State. So, I've just done quite a few things all over the place. That's why I was saying that I don't know if you really want me to talk about that. So I try to minimize what it is, but just seeing how those, and first place I lived was in Madison in Heritage House Apartments. Absolutely loved them, thought they were beautiful. In fact, what I loved about them were pillars like the one that my sister has here in her house that was right in front of the apartment complex. And I just thought they were beautiful because I recall many of the mansions and houses that I saw as a kid had pillars in front of them. Didn't realize then that a lot of those houses and estates were plantations, and didn't realize that that was something that I needed to know. But Nashville taught me that. It taught me those things and gave me that education that I was missing, because it was things that they would not talk about when I was
when you're growing
in
up.
high school and elementary school in Memphis.
So I was going to say,
transit-oriented development, I believe, is where it can take place, in terms of developing the areas and making sure. And the one thing that I love, and I'm sorry for jumping around, but the one thing that I love about my neighborhood that I grew in is that there was my first grade teacher lived around the corner. My high school teacher lived across the street. One of the chief of police lived down the street. We had a community of people who did just about everything. And they were laborers. There were people who served in manufacturers and all of those things. And their kids went to school together, and we all had a beautiful neighborhood and community. And I think that that's exactly the way it should be all over Nashville. I don't think, and I mean, I understand you got to have the affluent areas, but a city, a metropolitan area like Nashville, that affluent community can be left for those who create and build them themselves outside of. But for the government itself, I think it's up to us to take care of all people. And we take care of all people in our municipality, our metropolis that we have called Nashville, Davidson County.
So you have always on the council floor, I guess, been a voice for those who usually don't get heard. Okay, you say it in your statements. We have to remember, particularly as a government, taking care of those individuals who usually don't get heard, the least of these, I think is sometimes what you say.
Yes.
That's a part of the overall balance of what you're talking about, how we make a city work. Can't just be one issue and then we focus on that. Everything has to kind of sync together to make it work. All right.
Absolutely.
So how do you, as a council member at large, as a leader in the community, how do you do that? How do you push for that to happen? You said some of it, but it's difficult because people have different agendas and different things that they want to work on. But this city has tremendous potential. We've always known that. But we all have to get on this, at least on the same page. It may differ how we get there, but in order to make it work, everybody has to be moving at least sort of in sync. How do we do that?
So everybody can't get what they want all the time, but some of the time you can give it. You know, we don't always get sunshine. We get rain.
We don't have it today. Yeah.
You got to have it. You got joy, you got pain, you got sunshine and rain. You got black, white, up and down, fat, skinny, good, bad, pretty, ugly. It's what we're made of. We need to look at it. Sometimes East Nashville may get this. Next time North Nashville gets that. Next time West Nashville gets what it needs. And the other time South Nashville gets what they need. We need to look at it. I don't think that there is accountability and enforcement that is held. I think that those who get in leadership focus on what it is that they want and who they want, and they make sure that they give it. So when you got mayors that have been from the East Nashville, you saw East Nashville grow. When you saw a mayor from West Nashville, you saw West Nashville grow. When the thing of it is that you really hadn't seen anyone in the leadership position from North Nashville or from South Nashville. And what we have to do is think of others. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, I know that it's not as easy as I am maybe describing, because I know that the frustration for leaders come is that people think, well, why don't you just do it? You know, and there are constraints that prevent them from being able to do it. But I do believe that when you can do, you should do. And if you look at Nashville, it has been consistent. And I also know that while we have leadership in Nashville that is the mayor, the vice mayor, the Metro Council, and all of those things, I do know that there has been a cadre of people who basically ran the city. And maybe they still do. And they have been typically older, wealthy, white men. And when they have the agenda and they push it, and not only do they push it, but they push it for years to come. It's not just they push it for the time that this one person is in office. They set out and decide who it is that they want in office, put them in office in order to drive their agenda. And that agenda has not been a balanced agenda.
All right, so how do we, and I think you're right. I mean, based upon, and I'm from the other part of the state. I'm from East Tennessee, from Johnson City. So we all learn when we come down here. I mean, I think the world of Nashville, came to school down here just like you did and stayed. And then got involved, and you want to see it improve. I always thought Nashville, to me, was made up of lots of little neighborhoods that were all put together into one big city.
That's the whole purpose. That's the whole thing. That's it. Innately, naturally, it's a city of a melting pot, a stew, a garden of flowers. It is all of those things. And we don't just tend to the roses though. We don't just tend to the roses. Let's take care of these orchids over here and some of these carnations. You know, we do the chrysanthemums, even though we may not use them all the time, let's take care of them. And we got some holly over here in the corner that provides this thing. And what about that baby's breath? All of those things have to be tended to and cared for. And if you don't, if any part of the garden is overtaken by weeds, then the whole luster of that beautiful garden is injured. And I think that's what happened. Nashville has missed a major opportunity that I think in terms of embracing the Black community. And all of these people who are here and who have come here and have done some amazing things. We've got to embrace the entire community. We've got a large population of other communities that are here. And if we were giving them their fair share, their opportunity, and we got the census data that told us how many we have that are white, how many Black, how Latinx, how many other, if we use that as a formula and make sure that we care for our people, and as it grows and it continues and we focus on it, I think that might very well be the problem, Vice Mayor, is that because those people that have been in charge for so long see that those numbers are diminishing. And because they are diminishing, that means that their power is diminishing individually. But I think that's selfish thinking. If we each realize in these 5 fingers that we all make up something, and while we operate individually, when we come together, as Fred Sanford says, and we come as a fist, we're coming and bringing something much greater. And I think that that's what Nashville can be.
All right, so I would agree with you that I think for years the city was run by a smaller group of people, and that has, whether it's still there or not, I don't think it is. I think that as the city grew, well, I'm just saying that some of that power seems to have been maybe siphoned off, maybe not. How do you, as a leader in the community, how do you get control? How do you, if you've got, you've got a limited number of people and you want all 5 fingers on that hand coming together like this, so we can really move forward. How do you push? How do you start grabbing control away from some of the power brokers and say, we got issues, not just, central core issues, but how do you improve what's going on in East Nashville, in North Nashville, and Antioch, all in Bellevue? How do you get everybody on the same page so that we don't just, maybe to go to your analogy, we're just not watering the roses, we're watering everything in the garden. We're getting everything moving.
Right. So I don't know if we can get everybody on the same page when we start out, but we know all the time, you're the weakest link. And what happens? You get voted off. Yeah. If we help the weakest link become stronger, and I think it takes courage, Vice Mayor. It takes courage to step out there and do the right thing. Do what needs to be done. If we do what we always done, we're going to get what we always got. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So we've got to do something different. And doing something different is going and making sure that we address the weakest link and we bring the weakest link up. We help bring some equity. We change the mindset. We change the trajectory of things for people. We change people's lives. We see it happen all the time. We always talk about these wonderful stories. We look at the blind side and how this guy's life has been changed. There are stories like that all over. So when you give people that opportunity, access to certain things, you help create something, then, you know, everybody doesn't have to be extraordinary for things to happen. Just it takes ordinary people, and most of us are ordinary. But if we are made to feel like we are extraordinary, that we are unique and we can be and do all of those wonderful things, I think that's when you will find the outcome and the results of it. People just don't understand it. So I think that if we were to just come up with this dream thing, we got this big dream of Nashville, and we just go at it. And this is what we're going to do. If we want prosperity for everybody in Nashville, and we find out and see what's working, and we stay on that, as opposed to telling them, hey, you give up what you got, you know, but but buy into the dream. You know, I just think it's all about the messaging and what we do in our approach.
Okay, so let me ask you about specific issues, because people are they've got issues that they sent over the week, and then I've seen some on the chat box. Let's talk about specific issues that are concerns to not only Nashville, but other big cities. And you mentioned affordable housing, gun violence. How do we get a better handle on gun violence in Nashville?
First of all, we cannot allow people to just carry guns without a permit and just say it's okay. That right there does not help. I think what that does is give white people the opportunity to shoot Black people and kill them. And I don't mean to be cynical about it, and I don't mean to offend anyone. But considering that last week I spent the weekend with Congresswoman Lucy McBath out of Georgia, and she was the mother of the kid who had gotten killed from the gentleman in Florida because the kids were playing their music too loud. When you do those kinds of things, and you just do it carte blanche, and I understand that they may have had one intent, but when we make those rules and put those laws in place, oftentimes we don't understand the consequences that come with them. And as a result of the stand your ground, that's exactly what happened. And this young man lost his life. So I think that we cannot allow an open permit. You know, for me, it's horrible that we can bring guns to school, but we can't bring prayer. But that's not for everyone, and I get it. But that to me starts there. But I have heard and seen on many occasions, if you want to take a gun out of a kid's hand, give them a job, give them a purpose, give them something to do. All of those things are really, really important. You know, build them up. But if you ignore them and you say that what they're saying doesn't matter, then you're going to continue to get all of that. So the idea of having a budget in order to help with violence in the city, and you give it in these nonprofit organizations $5,000, that's not enough money for them to really make a difference. That is part of the window dressing and say, hey, well, we gave you this and we did this, that, and the other. You can't do it. You know, I got nephews. I got a nephew that's incarcerated now, and he's been incarcerated most of his life. But he came from a good family. He knew right from wrong, but he thought that because he could get away with it, he just continued to do it. And that's what happens. But we have to, I think there needs to be every opportunity. We got to give folks jobs. We got to have violence interruption. We've got to have prosperity pipelines. We've got to invest. We invest in more money in incarceration and in jails than we're investing in education. So all of these things are connected because it's the intent of some people to get the outcomes that they're getting right now. So until we change the leadership of people who really want to stop gun violence, they will do everything they can to make sure that that happens. I would rather give $1 to a kid today than to see him trying to stick me up 20 years later to get $100 from me.
Okay, so I think we would all, I think we hopefully would all agree with that. Economic opportunity. So I've heard, and you've been talking about it, but I've heard that's such a key element. Okay, so economic opportunity across the city, giving everyone a chance at being successful. How should we be doing that? I know, I mean, we both know that a lot of times we get these big giant projects that come in and a lot of a lot of talk and discussion about that. But how would you, if you could set it up, how would you give everybody the chance, the economic opportunities that I think is so important?
So again, it takes the best of us to help the rest of us. We've got economists all over this city. We have Tennessee State University, Vanderbilt University, Belmont University. By the way, I do have a degree from Belmont University, even though I do have a degree from Tennessee State University. Just want to know the balance that I talk about. See, I've lived it. I believe it. I work on Jefferson Street, but I live in Bellevue. I used to live in Madison. I graduated from Tennessee State, then I graduated from Belmont University. I have bank accounts at Citizens Bank, but I also have one at SunTrust Truist, and that kind of stuff.
You're misbalanced. I get that. All right. So how do you
again, all of these things, as far as I'm concerned, Mayor, comes back down to the political will.
Okay.
It comes down to the political will of the people in charge. And people that have been in charge have always continued to send that money to those places that matters most to them. And for those that they don't matter most to, you don't get it. So, Black women have not really been thought of as being intellectual. That used to be, that they didn't think, not quite as much today as it was years ago, because, we used to do the same jobs as the other slaves out in the fields. We carried the wood, we did all of those different things, but utilize those people who are doing the best to help the rest and teach them. You can get these young folk and put them in these internships, but who gets the internships? The same people. So you gotta have that racial equity in anything and everything that you do. If you look at the formula of the population of Nashville, and you were to give those opportunities of contracting based on our makeup, how many people are white, how many are Black, how many are Latinx, how many are, you will see. And by the way, the census also showed that there was a huge increase in the number of multiracial individuals. So in terms of the purebreds, it's leaving. It is slowly but surely disseminating. It is no longer 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's going to be a place for all of us anyway. You're going to have so many Barack Obamas, or Naomi Osaka's. So as far as I'm concerned, we gotta start doing things today in order to embrace what we're going to have in years to come. And that means that everybody ought to be able to do well. I look at places all around, like Hilton Head used to be Black, and look where it is now, what's going on. Brentwood was Nolensville, Tennessee. And it used to be Black. All of that property was owned by Black folks. And look at it, how many own it now? North Nashville. And look at it slowly, but if you look at the census numbers, it is changing. So those who are in charge are taking over. And the thing of it is that it's lonely at the top. So while they're taking over, they're gonna be lonely. They need some friends. So get you some friends that are not necessarily there. Those who are rich in friendship, who are rich in spirituality, who are rich in those things that you are missing in order for you to help them, and they can help you, and we all can live happily after. I believe in it. I believe that it can happen. I believe that's the way the world was created. I mean, it was created with a winter, a summer, a fall, and a spring. It was night and day, heaven and hell. It was created with balance. It was created with those things. Let's understand that. And all of us come together and work it and make it happen. And I think Nashville has the posture to do it, because the other love of my life Nashville has is music. And music is the universal language. And it doesn't matter. You hear good music and you dance with who's ever close to you. You dance like it doesn't matter. And I think that that's what Nashville can do. But the Jubilee Singers of Fisk University are the ones responsible for Music City, but everybody across the world believes that it's because of country music. That has to change, and it has to be an intentional change. That's why I'm so grateful that we now have the National Museum of African American Music, and it is absolutely amazing. Amazing. And there are so many things that people don't know, like the Gateway to Heritage that we have on Jefferson Street. It is full of facts and wonderful things that have occurred in Nashville by Black people and in that community. Like the first interracial football game was played at Fisk University, and people don't realize that. And that's because they don't come over to Jefferson Street. If they felt that it was safe for them to come to see all of those wonderful things, then they would know it and they would celebrate it. But now that it has changed and it's made to look like it's going to be more comfortable and it's going to be full of people that others are comfortable with, then you might see some of those things. But it's more of others things and less of those who made Nashville what it is. And that and you know, I know we've had several mayors say that it is the people in Nashville that made it what it is. And it most certainly is. And we need to cherish them because they are our greatest resource. And
well, let me let me ask you this. We got about 5 minutes left, and I got a million other questions for you. So again, we may have to ask you to come back, but I do want the people watching and who will watch over the week for you to spend a few minutes talking about your new role at NBC Leah. Can you explain what it is and what you're going to be doing?
Yes, I am the first vice president, which is the president-elect of the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials. And it is a child of the National League of Cities. And they are the ones that bring all of the elected officials together, all together every year. And the National Black Caucus of that organization is the largest and the oldest constituency group of its kind. In fact, it is older than the Congressional Black Caucus. but it is made up of local elected officials. So that includes mayors, council people, aldermen, um, just the official elected offices all across the country. And I will serve as its next president come November. And I just got to throw this in here because November is going to be an amazing month for me, because I am going to be the grandmother for the first time. My oldest daughter is expecting November the 7th, and my middle daughter is expecting November 30th. And in the middle of that, November 15th to the 18th is when the National Black Caucus of local elected officials and NLC will swear me in as its new president.
So that's that's a national role. That's a
It
big
is a national
deal.
role.
Right.
And I am the first one from Tennessee, and people all over the country. I think I had 7 or 8 people who also ran. And we actually only had about 7 people from Tennessee who was there, because you had a lot of groups, like Texas had a big group and North Carolina had a big group and all of them. But I have been talking to people, and I started out as assistant secretary, and Jacobia Jow was our treasurer. And I know that trustee Erica Gilmore has been involved, and our register of deeds, Karen Johnson. She's actually the one that really ushered me in and gave me the ropes. And she was on the board of the National League of Cities. And it's just been a wonderful experience. But I served as the secretary, and then I became second vice, first vice, and now I will be, because once you get second vice, it's a succession to the presidency, but the first in Tennessee. And the thing of it is, what's really important about Nashville is that the president has a summer conference in their home city. So next year in 2022, we will be hosting people from all over the country. And they're still talking about the 2015 summit that we had here of the National League of Cities. So we're really, really excited about that. I'm looking for this to be the biggest and the best summer conference from Nashville, in Nashville, for the National Black Caucus, simply because this is the first summer program, a summer conference we would have had since we've been in the pandemic. I'm going to try to honor those 2 presidents in some way who were not able to have a face-to-face event themselves, and recognize them, and maybe even bring some of their folk here. But the event is going to be July 22nd through the 25th of 2022. We already have gotten proposals from hotels that are offering good rates for us. So we're going to try to make it a regional event and just make it the biggest and best, because we want to show off what Nashville has and what Nashville can be. A lot of the problems and issues and things that we deal with, we have it, it's all over the nation. They also are dealing with housing, short-term rentals, gun violence, and all of those different things, because it's all happening there, because people are not sharing the wealth. They're focusing on doing it and continuing to doing it the way that it only serves a certain population of people. And we've got to change that. And that's going to be part of the work that we do. And a little bit at a time, whether it's going to be in criminal justice reform, affordable housing, and homelessness, because that's been a major issue. And we got to look to those places you know, I know that homelessness, I really didn't really want to talk about that, but I never understood that. I mean, we got all of these hotels or schools and vacant buildings. I mean, there was a school over there in Brookmead Elementary, that we had the lights on and nobody was in the building for several years. Why couldn't we put people there? Why could we not help them in some way? Now, all of the folks that are homeless are not hopeless. So we have to do something to help them. We teach them, we make sure that they got their meds, we make sure that they get the help that they need when they've got substance abuse problems. We know what the issues are. We need to talk to them and find out what they want. You know, ask me, that's the thing. You know what? I had the best birthday last week. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to just tell my husband what it is that I want. And he got me everything I wanted. If I had waited for him to decide on what he wanted to get, there's no telling what I would have gotten. He would have gone and spent some money, but I'm like, why did you get that? You know, but it's all good. So people talk to us, they tell us we need to listen and act on it. It's that simple to me.
Well, we are out of time, unfortunately, and we may ask you to come back at some point because you're full of tremendous wisdom and
Well,
great
thank you,
stories.
Vice Mayor.
And you're one of my most favorite people to talk to. So I just would love to have you come back.
I'd be happy to.
I will tell you that Council Member Tanya Hancock has been on. Next week, we're going to have Council Member John Rutherford.
I love me some Tanya Hancock. I tell you, I love me some Tanya. She wears those little red shoes, you know. You know, I'm a red girl, so I love it.
So I will tell you one quick story and then we'll get off. Again, Council Member Rutherford on next week. I was in Atlanta, and Sharon knows this story. I was in Atlanta a couple of years ago for a conference, and I was going through security in the Sam Nunn building. And the security guard found out where I was from, and he says, I have a cousin that is on the city council. I'm like, who is that? And he goes, Sharon Hurt. And it seems like wherever I go, people know who you are. So I will tell you that you are already probably a national figure before you become president of NBC Leo. But that is a tremendous honor, first of all. And it's a tremendous thing for the city of Nashville. And it's going to be a wonderful experience. I know for you, you're going to do great things with it. And I know this conference is coming up next year, and that's very exciting for the city. So we're really proud of you.
Thank you very much. It was my nephew that you actually met. Okay. And yes, and you know, I don't meet a stranger, and I just love, because the more I love, the more people love me, and I get it back, and I'm spoiled. I'm the baby, and I just want love all the time. And I think that works. But you know what? When you talk about love, the one thing that I have to say, these 911 dispatchers, these first responders, the first responders, and all of these people that are working, trying to hold down and do what needs to be done with COVID. I am so thankful and grateful to them. I'm so thankful for the council, the study and formulating committee, the employee benefits board, the mayor, everybody that signed on for those 911 dispatchers to get that pension, the public safety pension that they did have but was taken away. It was long overdue. It passed third reading the other night, and I'm grateful for them. But I also want to see balance within Metro employees and Metro departments, because it hurts me that 17% of Nashville's population are Black women, but 63% are those that are served by Metro Social Services. We've got to change that. We got to change it. And not only that, but Metro Social Services is getting the same percentages of money today as they got back in 1965, you know, and that is ridiculous. And for us to, oh, and not only that, but you look at those that serve those poor populations, they have the worst buildings. You know, look at juvenile court, look at Metro Social Service, look at Metro Action. They serve that populace of people. So it's all over. If you're looking, you can see it. But we keep on, we make it work. But we need balance when it comes to those things. And some of this, and we've got buildings and companies all over the place. You know, I appreciate HCA, but I think HCA probably made $15 billion last year from the pandemic with all of the hospitalizations that we have going on. And I just want to see them share some of that money and make things better for all of Nashville.
Well, you and I have a tremendous amount of work left to be done. And
That's right.
I'm with you. You keep going.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna be like 50 Cent. That for those that know 50 Cent. If I don't get it done, I'm gonna die trying. Well,
you keep going. One last thing to tell you, tell your sister that it's still 5 minutes till 12 in Memphis. Okay, time didn't change during the time you were here. All right, everybody be safe. Council member, have a wonderful time with your family in Memphis. Be safe coming back, but come back because we need you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Sharon Hurt, council member at large, and many other things. Be safe, everybody. See you next week. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.